It began like any ordinary night in one of China's most vibrant coastal cities, a crowd of young people gathering to dance, laugh, and forget the weight of their daily lives. The music pulsed through the walls, lights flashed across the packed floor, and laughter drowned out the noise of the world outside. But by dawn, the nightclub was silent. Blood covered the floor, bodies lay scattered between shattered bottles and overturned tables, and the smell of smoke and gunpowder clung to the air. What followed was not only a massacre, but an extraordinary attempt to erase it from history. This is the story of the Chinese nightclub massacre that police tried to hide from the world. The nightlife scene that hid a dark secret. In the mid-2000s, China's rapid modernization created a generation hungry for excitement. Cities like Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and Shanghai exploded with luxury and nightlife. One of those clubs, known only as the Red Pavilion, became the center of attention in a growing industrial city in southern China. On the surface, it was a stylish entertainment hub with VIP rooms, neon-lit bars, and live performances. Beneath that, however, it was a place where illegal business quietly thrived: money laundering, drug dealing, and underground gambling, all hidden behind its glamorous facade. The club was owned by a powerful local businessman named Li Ming, a man with deep political connections. Li was untouchable, rumors said he paid off law enforcement to look the other way. Every week, local officials, police officers, and businessmen gathered in the private lounge of the Red Pavilion to drink and negotiate behind closed doors. Nobody questioned how a nightclub in a supposedly quiet city could afford such extravagant operations. But things began to change when Li crossed paths with someone he should never have angered: a rival syndicate that wanted control over the club's territory. A power struggle brewing beneath the lights. In early 2008, the Red Pavilion's control over local nightlife drew attention from a competing gang known as the Black Tiger Group. They were known for extortion, smuggling, and violent retribution. The group demanded a share of the club's profits, but Li Ming refused. He was confident his political connections made him invincible, but he underestimated how ruthless his rivals could be. What started as minor confrontations, brawls outside the club, threats, and vandalism escalated into an all-out war. Security cameras mysteriously stopped working, and several of Li's employees vanished. He increased security, hiring private guards armed with batons and tasers. Still, the tension only grew. The nightclub continued to operate every night, pretending everything was normal, but inside, fear lingered among the staff. Unbeknownst to Li, the rival group had already infiltrated his circle. They had men posing as bartenders, dancers, and even security guards. The plan for revenge was already in motion, and it would unfold in one of the bloodiest nights the city had ever seen. The night everything fell apart. It was a humid Saturday night in July 2008. The Red Pavilion was packed with over 200 guests. Music blared, champagne bottles popped, and no one noticed the group of men quietly entering through the staff entrance. They wore black jackets, caps, and carried duffel bags that held something far deadlier than anyone inside could imagine. At exactly 11:46 p.m., the lights suddenly flickered. The music cut off for a second, and then gunfire. Loud, deafening bursts echoed across the dance floor as chaos erupted. Witnesses later said it was like a war zone. The attackers moved fast, targeting guards first. Some people thought it was a fight until they saw blood spraying across the strobe lights. People screamed, scrambled, and tried to escape, but the attackers blocked the exits. Bottles shattered, tables flipped, and fire broke out near the bar as Molotov cocktails were thrown. Within minutes, the nightclub turned into a death trap: thick smoke, flashing lights, and cries for help filling the air. By the time the shooting stopped, dozens lay dead or dying. The attackers vanished into the night as quickly as they arrived, leaving behind a burning building and a trail of horror the scene police didn't want to see. When police arrived hours later, they found devastation. Bodies were stacked near the main entrance, victims who had tried to escape but couldn't. Some were burned beyond recognition. The surviving staff were hysterical, and the few witnesses who could speak told the same story. Masked men stormed in, opened fire, and disappeared. But strangely, the officers didn't secure the scene immediately. Instead, they began removing bodies before investigators could arrive. Survivors were told to stay silent. Mobile phones were confiscated. Reporters who tried to approach were blocked and threatened with arrest. Official statements claimed a kitchen fire caused the deaths, even though bullet holes covered the walls. Behind the scenes, Li Ming's political allies were already at work. The massacre threatened to expose not only his illegal empire, but also the officials who protected it. To them, this wasn't just a tragedy, it was a potential scandal that could ruin careers. The order came down swiftly from local authorities: silence everything. The government's silent cleanup. Within 2 days, the nightclub was sealed off, bulldozers moved in, and debris was cleared. The official death toll released by authorities was 16, though witnesses claimed the real number was at least 80. Hospitals were ordered not to release patient names, and families searching for missing loved ones were told there had been no survivors. CCTV footage from that night vanished. Police reports were rewritten, and anyone who tried to speak up found themselves followed, questioned, or worse. Several journalists who tried to publish the story online had their articles deleted within hours. One local reporter, who anonymously posted pictures of the aftermath, disappeared days later. Residents whispered about trucks moving at night, believed to be carrying the bodies of victims away for secret cremation. No one dared to question it publicly. Fear ruled the city, and the Red Pavilion massacre became something people only mentioned in hushed tones. The whistleblower who refused to stay silent. 2 years later, in 2010, a man claiming to be a former police officer leaked documents online describing the cover-up. He said that the attack was indeed a gang retaliation, but the real scandal was the city's attempt to erase the evidence. According to his files, over 70 people were killed, including innocent guests and several of Li Ming's guards. The attackers were known members of the Black Tiger Group, but police were ordered not to pursue them. The whistleblower detailed how victims' families were paid hush money and forced to sign non-disclosure agreements. Some were told their loved ones had died in unrelated accidents. Hospitals destroyed medical records, and the nightclub owner, Li Ming, was quietly moved to another province under a new identity. The documents caused a brief explosion on social media, but within 24 hours, every post, image, and file disappeared. Accounts were deleted, and anyone sharing the story was warned by authorities. Still, some fragments of the truth spread to foreign journalists who began investigating from outside the country. International outrage and domestic silence. Foreign news agencies picked up the story in small pieces. Reports surfaced describing a mass killing in southern China that the government refused to acknowledge. Satellite images confirmed that the club's remains had been cleared just days after the attack. Several missing persons lists compiled by families supported the theory that dozens more had died than the government admitted. But inside China, it was as if the massacre had never happened. Searches online returned nothing. Local residents were told the nightclub fire had been an electrical accident. Parents were warned not to speak about it to journalists. Even years later, younger generations grew up without ever hearing the story. For those who lost someone that night, the silence was worse than the violence itself. They couldn't mourn publicly. There were no funerals, no memorials, only memories and fear. The long shadow of corruption. Behind the cover-up lay a deeper truth about corruption and power. Li Ming's nightclub had been a symbol of how deeply criminal money and government influence intertwined. The massacre wasn't just about gang rivalry, it was the inevitable result of a system where officials ignored crime in exchange for profit. When the attack exposed that fragile alliance, the easiest solution wasn't justice, it was silence. Police didn't just hide the crime, they became part of it. Every erased file, every buried body was another layer of corruption protecting the powerful. Years later, investigators who reviewed leaked internal memos found proof that at least 4 high-ranking officers had received bribes from Li Ming before the massacre. Those same officers were promoted afterward, rewarded for maintaining social stability. It was a chilling reminder that in certain places, truth isn't just inconvenient, it's dangerous. The survivors who remember some who lived through that night fled the city entirely. Others stayed silent for fear of being targeted. One survivor, a bartender named Chen Rui, later spoke anonymously to foreign reporters. He described hiding under a table while watching his friends get shot. He said the attackers moved methodically, not wildly. They knew who they wanted, he recalled. After the massacre, Chen was detained for questioning and held for 3 days without charge. Police forced him to sign a document stating he had no knowledge of any criminal attack. When he refused, they threatened to accuse him of drug possession. He left China soon after and never returned. His testimony, combined with others who escaped, helped reconstruct what really happened, but the full truth remains fragmented, buried under years of censorship and fear. The story of the Red Pavilion isn't just about a massacre, it's about silence. It's about what happens when truth threatens power and power chooses to erase it. The people who died that night weren't just victims of violence, they were victims of a system that decided their deaths didn't matter. And maybe that's the real tragedy, not only the blood spilled on the nightclub floor, but the silence that followed. Because when a nation buries its truth deep enough, the ground doesn't stay still forever. One day, it cracks open and the ghosts demand to be heard.